relationships. Or look at King Solomon. He had 300 wives. He took these from other nations to cement relationships. This was just a way that they could, it was foreign relations at the time. It was a way that they would make it so that Israel was more secure from their enemies. It had its downside, of course. In Solomon's case, his wives drew him away from God into other religions, to where he was worshiping other gods. But it says the Amarna, A-M-A-R-N-A, Amarna letters, a collection of diplomatic correspondence from the late Bronze Age, demonstrate how marriages are regularly used to strengthen relationships between rulers and kingdoms. Ibsen was not operating at the international level of the Amarna kings, but the same principle likely applied. Marriages could create a broad network of alliances and obligations. The text does not tell us whether every marriage was wise or whether Scripture is commending the practice. I think Scripture is against the practice. But it does show that he possessed an extensive network of family relationships. Some leaders build influence through conflict. King David comes to mind. All through the first two kings, through Saul and through David, they were constantly at war against the Philistines. Then David comes along, and he is forever fighting wars until, when it is time for his son to become king, there is peace in Israel. But it was through the alliances that he made. It was through the battles that he won. So like I said, peace is always the miracle, because war, especially in this time, could break out so easily. It says, healthy ministry is not only about preaching, vision, and decisive action, it also requires trust, cooperation, hospitality, and relationships across social boundaries. And then next is Elon. This is 11 and 12. After him, Elon the Zebulunite judged Israel. He judged Israel 10 years. Then Elon the Zebulite died and was buried at Aijalon in the land of Zebulun. After him, Abdon the son of Hillel, the Pirathonite, judged Israel. We're told almost nothing about Elon except that he led Israel for 10 years, died, and was buried. This is no big story attached to his name, but 10 years is a significant time of a person's life. For a decade, Elon apparently carried responsibility among God's people. His story reminds us, a life does not have to be dramatic to be faithful. Most Christians will never have a chapter written about them. They will not be remembered for defeating an army, but they will be remembered by the people they quietly served, the children they taught, the meals they prepared, the prayers they prayed, the people they visited, the truth they constantly lived, the responsibilities they faithfully carried. God sees years of faithfulness that history records in only one sentence. And then we come to Abdon. After him, Abdon, the son of Hillel, the Pirathonite, judged Israel. He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons who rode on 70 donkeys, and he judged Israel 8 years. Then Abdon, the son of Hillel, the Pirathonite, died and was buried at Pirathon in the land of Ephraim, in the hill country of the Amalekites. He has 40 sons and 30 grandsons who ride on 70 donkeys. In the ancient Near East, donkeys were essential for transportation, agriculture, and trade. Scholarly studies also note their association with elite status and kinship. If you remember, when King David wanted Solomon to take over, he actually put Solomon on one of his royal donkeys. As a king, he had the choice of the finest in the land. That's what Samuel, the people, when we get to Samuel, They come to him and they said, we want to be like all the other nations. We want to have a king. And Samuel tells them, if you have a king, he is going to take your young men and your young women into his service. He's going to take your land. He's going to take 1/10 of everything you grow. You really don't want to do this. But they said, yes, we do. We want to be like the other nations. Samuel goes before God and says, God, they have rejected me. And God says, no, Samuel, it's not you they're rejecting, it's me they're rejecting. The Israelites over and over and over again were prone to wander, were prone to accept other gods. It's hard in the Old Testament to read more than 2 or 3 chapters without finding that they're gone astray. They did it 40 years in the wilderness. They were forever moaning and complaining that they had it better back in Egypt. They are a stiff-necked people, is what Paul says about and others. Stiff-necked, even God admitted that's what they were. But they were his people. And over again, he would forgive them. That's how he sends these judges, so that they could have moments where they had peace in the midst of the turmoil that was going on around them. So, a household able to provide 70 riding animals possessed considerable wealth and reach. The picture is of an influential family spread across a wide area. The descendants may have assisted in administration, communication, judgment, or maintaining Abdon's influence throughout the region. However, the text does not explicitly explain their roles, so we should avoid claiming more than Scripture states. This may also be a warning here. A large family network can strengthen leadership, but it can also become a dynasty. God's work must never become a private family possession. Family members can serve together, but spiritual leadership must remain based on character, calling, and faithfulness, not merely bloodline and influence. Abdon was buried at Parathon in the hill country of Ephraim. Parathon is commonly associated with the area of modern Ferrata, which I have no idea where it is, west of ancient Shechem, which we talked about with Gideon, largely because of the similarity in the names and of the geographical fit. Jephthah led for 6 years. Between them, Ibzan, Elon, and Abdon led for a combined 25 years, where Jephthah's story is filled with conflict, vows, tragedy, insults, and bloodshed. The final 3 judges receive only a few verses, but the text records no foreign invasion or civil war during their leadership. The quietest leaders in the chapter may have overseen its most stable years. People do not always need a spectacular leader, but they always need faithful leaders. Churches are often impressed by charisma, platform personality, rapid growth, dramatic stories, and visible accomplishments. God also values stability, integrity, patience, administration, healthy relationships, faithful succession, and years without scandal. He has 3 questions listed. Why are we more attracted to dramatic leaders than quiet, faithful ones? What form of ordinary faithfulness does the church sometimes overlook? And how can leaders build relational networks without creating favoritism or family dynamics? That's a tough one. And then the Christ connection, the better judge. Judges 12 shows that Israel needed more than another military leader. Jephthah could defeat Ammon, but he could not remove pride from the human heart. He could lead an army, but he could not reconcile brothers. He could capture the river crossings, but he could not create peace. Israel needed a better judge. Jesus did not merely defeat an external enemy. He reconciles enemies to God and to one another. Ephesians 2:14-16 says that Christ is our peace. Through the cross, he destroys hostility and creates one new people. At the Jordan Ford, the difference in speech between Shibboleth and Sibboleth led to death 42,000 lives. But at the cross, the death of Christ creates a family from every tribe, language, people, and nation. Billions of us will be forever together with him. Jesus does not make us identical, he makes us one. Our unity is not based on having the same accent, sharing the same background, voting the same way, preferring the same music, coming from the same social class, or knowing the same insider language. Our unity is based on Christ. Where has wounded pride been shaping my response to someone? Or two, what secondary issue am I attempting to use as a shibboleth? We do that. Why do churches break up? We've all heard it can be the color of the carpet. It can easily be the difference between the songs. The Daily Bread, probably 6 months ago, told a church that split up because not all of them believed that the earth was flat. I couldn't believe that when I read it. I think it's because they wanted to split up that they found a common issue that they could fight against. Where is God calling me to practice quiet, faithful leadership? I can guarantee you that for all of us, it's in the home. It's in the schools. It's in the business world. It's in church. That's what we are called to do. Quiet, faithful leadership. Conclusion. Judges 12 warns us that victory over an outside enemy does not protect us from division within the family. Pride can turn brothers into rivals. Words can become weapons. Differences can become death sentences. Leadership can become a platform for ego and family power. But the chapter also reminds us that quiet sessions and less celebrated leaders can be instruments of God's mercy. The people of God are strongest, not when everyone sounds alike, but when humble people remain united around the Lord who served them. And now for something entirely different. Ken?
That's an intro. Thank you, Harry, I think.
Or thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Okay, does it work? Yep, good. Okay, we're going to start then, and we're going to move into Judges chapter 12. All right? So open it up. Is it 13? Okay. All right, I'll do 13. We'll do 13. To start with Judges chapter 13, we've got to go to John chapter 1, verse 18. I mean, we got to start there. So let's turn to John chapter 1, verse 18. Judges chapter 13 is one of those unique passages that takes the story and it refocuses everything in what we would call a supernatural birth that's about to take place. And it's going to be an intro to Samson. But this 13 is not about Samson. 13 is about his birth and a supernatural intervention by God, by Yahweh, to move history in a certain direction. One of the things that the father of Samson, his name was Manoah, which means basically my peace or my rest. You know the name Noah. Noah means rest. Noah means comfort. And so one of the questions that Manoah asks there's this constant interplay that goes on with this, what's called a strange thing called the angel of the Lord. Who is that? And there's a huge theological works that have been done on that very question. We see the angel of the Lord coming, and we see him going, and he's doing miraculous things. But he's more than just a regular angel. And Manoah at the end of chapter 13 makes a strange statement. But before I read that, I want to go to 1 John. I mean, not 1 John, but John. I'm going to give that as the preliminary, and then we'll tie it all together. And that is 18. It says this. This is John talking. This is after he talks about in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. And he's introducing us to who? He's introducing us to the Christ, to Jesus. Later in 18, he says this. He says, no one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. Now, has somebody got an NIV here? Read it out loud for me. 18.
No one has ever seen God, but the one and only Son, who is himself God and is in closest relationship with the Father, has made him known.
Right. And what we heard so many times, that no one can see God and live. And yet, what is John talking about? What is he saying to us? This whole thing in Judges chapter 13 is about who has seen God. We're seeing this strange figure called the angel of God. And most theologians, most of the scholars, and if you open up your heart, you're going to probably wind up agreeing with them. What we see, what Manoah was asking is, who is this guy who is physical? He says, I can see him. And at the end, he says, I should be dead because I've seen the face of Yahweh. I've seen the face of God. Well, of course, we as believers in Christ, we know who he's seen. That's been revealed to us some 1,500 years later after Manoah asked the question. So I start that by saying, I'll read it one more time and then we'll go on to 13. He says, no one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son has. And what did Philip say to Jesus? He says, show me the Father, or show us the Father. And what is Jesus' response? You've seen the Father. And the whole point is God basically saying, I can't show my totality to them. I love them. I care for them. They're my children, my people. I can't show my face to them because it would be like sticking them in the middle of the sun. They would be fried to a crisp before they even got within 1,000,000 miles of it. You don't see the totality of God. He who created trillions of stars. Do you realize the energy that he's putting out? Do you realize the radiation burn, the sunburn you'd get? I mean, you'd be cooked in a minute. He knows that. So what does he do? He becomes one of us. C.S. Lewis pointed it out and said, it's as if God is looking at an anthill. And he says, how can I talk to them? How can I communicate with them? And what does he say? He says, I'll become an ant. And then I'll communicate to them. And that's Christ. So let's go now to Judges chapter 13. I lost my place. Have you guys read it? Anybody read the thing? I encourage you to do so and to kind of open up to the idea. You know, the book of Judges can be looked at different ways. You can interpret when you have your mental picture of Judges in any of the books of the Bible, you can look at the concept of what are the people doing? What's going on with the people that's happening? What's going on with the nations? What's going on with all the different things? And the other way to look at it is, what is God doing? God is moving. And in Judges 13, every once in a while we'll get a passage like in Genesis chapter 12 and Genesis chapter 15. We'll see where God is intervening and openly coming in and saying, I'm going to change the course of history, or I'm not going to change it, but I'm going to guide the course of history. I'm going to supervise it. I'm going to take it and move it in the direction that I decide I want it. So Judges 13 is like that. So I'll start reading it. Verse 1, again, the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. Boy, they have a habit of that, don't they? Do we? And case in point, the entire book of Judges, from the beginning to the end, is between 350 and 400 years total. I mean, get that into the frame. That's 100 some odd years longer than the United States. For those who have some historical background and have looked into the history of our nation, and also have looked into the last 50 years, 60 years, how much have we changed in the last 50 to 60 years? We go from a depression to a series of faith and renewing and relying and trusting on God, to a world war, to where we make dominance. We became dominant in the planet, and we become rich and we become powerful, and then we slide into the same problem and we become affluent, and we fall into the same pattern that we see God's children doing. It's this cycle that happens. We're no different. And what he has put in the book of Judges is for us to say is, there's periods of time when I will give you rest. And there's periods of time in the Judges, you'll see it. Harry was just talking about one of those times. 8, 10, 12 years. Certain ones some of the peaceful judges would last 20 years. And those were the times of revival. Those were the times of blessing. And then it turns again. So my point is this. We can look at Judges from the perspective of only focusing on the people. Do it and focus on what they're doing. But also then move your focus to what Yahweh is doing, what God is doing. So here we go. He says, again, the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. Now there was a certain man from Zohar, of the name from the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had no children. That should give you kind of a clue where have we seen a couple that can't have kids? So start thinking that one through. Or where do we have an unusual birth taking place? This is the point where God is about to make history and about to change the way we look at things. Be open to the subtleties. And the angel of the Lord, again, who is this guy? This angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, indeed, now you are barren, and you have borne no children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Said to Sarah, said to how many others do we know? And eventually, of course, the ultimate was Christ. A supernatural intervention to create a child. And that child would become, in this case, a judge. And no matter how we look at Samson, in terms of going on to 14 and on, about how the guy was kind of wacky. Not kind of wacky, he was wacky. But the reality is that at the end of the story, God's enemies are put down, aren't they? And it's amazing how God will use these kinds of things. So let's go on. And he says, for behold, you shall, up there, I too far. Now indeed you are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. There's a promise by the angel of the Lord. Take that one to the bank. Now therefore, please be careful not to drink wine or similar drink, and do not eat anything unclean. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hands of the Philistines. Quite a bit there to unpack, isn't there? So what's a Nazarite? What's a Nazarite from the standpoint of we hear Nazarene, we hear Nazarite. They're different, but let's start with just what is a Nazarite?
Somebody from Nazareth.
What?
Somebody from the town of
Okay, now was Samuel, now that's the idea of Jesus coming from the town of Nazareth. And then this one, though, was long before that. A Nazarite was someone who was, the word actually Naz is from the word, the Hebrew word for to separate or to be separate from. It can also mean to be dedicated to. So a Nazaritic vow is what we've heard, is that a man or a woman, according to the law in Numbers, a man or a woman can have a Nazarite vow. A vow is something that you take for a period of time. It's like fasting in some ways. I'm dedicating this portion of my life, or this portion of my lust, or this portion of my needs. I'm dedicating this to Yahweh or Christ. And so a Nazarite vow could be something that was for, again, a period of time, for a specific period of time, by a man or a woman could take this, and it involved not eating unclean food, not drinking wine. It was very specific in Numbers, really pretty much those things, and that you would not touch a dead body. Strange. But that's part of that vow. That comes to us from Numbers 6. If you want to read what a Nazaritic vow actually is, it's spelled out for us in Numbers chapter 6.
So
Okay.
there's a difference between Nazarite vows and Nazarene. Nazarene, Jesus was a Nazarene.
That's correct. So expand on that, Mike.
What's that?
Expand on that, please.
Well, the Nazarite vow is a vow that you took for holiness. And it could be, once it was instituted, in a certain way that it had to end, if it was ever ended. But Samson is going to be a Nazarite from birth.
He stole my thunder. Did you get what he just said? What he said was, Samson was totally unique in this, in that his was going to, and the angel is going to tell us, that Samson was a Nazarite for life. Did you want to add anything else to that? Thank you. So that idea is again, Samson is unique. His birth is unique. And Joe will get into all the dirty laundry, but that's another part of the story. God is still working with someone who is human. He is working with someone who is flawed. He is working with us on a day-to-day basis to accomplish his will, to accomplish what he wants and what he does. So let's go on. Okay, we're at verse 6. So the woman came and told her husband, saying, a man of God has come to me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God. Very awesome. But I did not ask him where he was from, and he did not tell me his name. Now, we've got how many minutes left here? So what I'm going to propose, if the elders are okay with this, can I get some time next week? Okay, so I won't go through the whole, no? Oh, okay. You never know. See, they'll take me aside, just so you know. They'll take me aside and say, that's it, you're done. Just remember, Italians lie. That's what we do. Not Joe, but... Okay, but we'll carry on with this, because it's not a long chapter. It's a very short chapter. But it's still one of those chapters where you're getting a taste of something of a you want to call it a motif, or you want to call it some kind of a idea that goes throughout the Bible. And what it is that God is working supernaturally, and he has supernatural intent in what he does. Don't ever, please, lose the supernatural idea. Christians have a real problem, frankly, is that we have abandoned the supernatural. We have no problem, in some ways, believing that a virgin can give birth. You got no problem with that. Most Christians don't have an issue with that. They don't have a problem with a man can rise from the dead. But boy, you tell them that an angel came down and lusted after earthly women and bore them giants, and those giants ruled, And then you start to they start to go wacky on that. We have been taught certain things, but understand that this is a wonderful, wonderful discovery. It's like going to a river and finding an old book, and it's a treasure. And you open that treasure up, and you find it's inexhaustible. It goes on. And the other thing that's really wild is that you'll see something that was written 1,500 years before Jesus walked, 500 years before Jesus walked the face of the earth, is directly towards him. It predicts him. It tells him about what's coming. And then we see it 2,000 years later, and we can look back and we see all these connections that are happening. It's amazing. So the woman came and told her husband, a man of God, and I'm still back at 6, came to me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God. Very awesome. But I did not ask him where he was from, and he did not tell me. And he said to me, behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. Now drink no wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean. For the child should be a Nazirite to God from the womb to the day of his death. And we said that is very unique. That is, and go back, if you go back and read Leviticus 6, you'll find how unique that really is. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord and said, oh, my Lord, please let the man of God whom you sent come to us again and teach us what we shall do for the child to be born. So Manoah's kind of an honest guy. He's saying, so how do I do this? How do I handle this? He's no regular kid. I've got to have all kinds of rules.
Do you mean number 6 or Leviticus 6 to go back to?
I think it's number 6.
Okay.
So if you want to check me on that, please do, because I do make mistakes. That's my job. It's what I do. Okay. It is number 6, right? It is number 6. Thank you. See, I got backup here. You had it right. In fact, do you have it in front of you?
I can't do it. This is ESV, though.
ESV is great. They're all great.
The Nazarite, I'm going to read it. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the people of Israel and say to them, when either a man or a woman makes a special vow, the vow of a Nazarite to separate himself to the Lord, he shall separate himself from wine and strong drink. He shall drink no vinegar made from wine or strong drink, and shall not drink any juice of grapes or eat grapes, fresh or dry, all the days of his separation. He shall eat nothing that is produced by the grapevine, not even the seeds or the skins. All the days of his vows of separation, no razor shall touch his head until the time is completed for which he separates himself to the Lord. He shall be holy. He shall set the locks of his hair of his head grow long. Let them grow. All the days that he separates himself to the Lord, he shall not go near a dead body, not even for his father or for his mother, for brother or sister. If they die, shall he make himself unclean, because his separation to God is on his head. All the days of his separation he is holy to the Lord. And it goes on for a while.
Yes. Okay. So that it's an intense passage. As Mike was saying, it is the idea that you have decided to take a vow to be holy, to be separate for a while. And it doesn't mean, my wife likes to call me a holy oafer, but you don't tell her that. But that's one of those things where some people hear the word, well, you're just trying to be holy, as if you're trying to be prideful, as if you're trying to do this. That's not what this is about. What this is about is to say, I'm going to take and set myself aside or set my child aside. I'm going to dedicate this period of time to God. And I do it in reflection. I do it in quiet prayer. I do it in reading the text. Those are the various things that would make up something along this line. Although this is under the Levitical law and under the Jewish law. It doesn't apply to us today in terms of a command that's made. We are instructed at times to pray, to fast. There's different things that we should be doing. But Paul, we have a leniency. We are not under this particular Levitical law. So don't make that mistake. Unless you want to go to Pastor Frank and just say you decided to be a Nazarite for a week. That would be an interesting response. Joe.
There's just a point I want to bring up, because when
when they took the Nazarite vow, they did it for 30 days. So like when he's talking about Samson was unusual, it was unusual for anybody to take the Nazarite vow for that long. Most of them did it for maybe, it was months, not years.
Right.
So to commit your whole life to this was something truly special. And also the part about it that made it special was the commitment that it took when you took the Nazarite vow. It was something that was taken very seriously.
Big time.
And it wasn't something that you could just ignore that lifestyle that you had to have. So that's important.
That's perfect. And also just, he brought up the other two, that was Samuel. What about his birth? What about his mother? Was there something there who knows that story? She was barren.
Came before the Lord and promised to give her son to the Lord if he would bless her with a child. He did.
And John the Baptist, Elizabeth. What do we know about her? So that whole thing is recognize those connections. I guess those are dots that we put into the text and we say, wow, these are all connected. And never forget, they aren't an inch and a half apart. They are thousands of years apart. 66 books written by 40 different guys over thousands of years. And yet it tells a complete story, putting it all together. I'll wrap up with two more verses. So we know now what a Nazarite does. And that's, you shall bear a son. I'm in 7. Now drink no wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Next one. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord and said, O my Lord, please let the man of God whom you sent come to us and teach us that what we shall do for the child who will be born. And God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of the Lord came to the woman again as she was sitting in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. Then the woman ran in haste and told her husband and said, Look, the man who came to me the other day has just now appeared to me. By the way, I'm reading out of New King James. So some of you, if it sounds a little not quite right, that's what I'm doing. So Manoah arose and followed his wife. And when he came to the man, he said to him, Are you the man who spoke to this woman? And he said, I am. Notice that he doesn't recognize him. He doesn't immediately say, wow, you're an angel of the Lord. Yeah, wow, you're Jesus. There's a mystery that's involved there. And when he says something like, he is not recognizable, does that kind of ring a bell for you? Maybe at the garden tomb, after Jesus is raised, his followers the women don't really recognize him at first. Again, more dots. I lost my place. And he says, I am. Now I'm in verse 12. Manoah said, Now let your words come to pass. What will be the boy's rule of life and of his work? So the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, Of all that I said to the woman, let her be careful. She may not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor may she drink wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean. All that I commanded her, let her observe. Start thinking in terms of who this personage is. He is an angel. The word is malach in Hebrew, and it's basically, we call it angel. It's messenger. And in this case, it's most, I hate to say it this way, but most scholars, theologians, most of the people that I've learned from, and most of the pastors, and most of the people that we teach generally, is that this is Christ. This is what's called a Christophany. And one of the reasons they do it is because typically angels will not accept worship. This particular angel will. We'll find that out in a minute. He accepts worship. He also commands certain things to do. Messengers don't do that. Yes?
What about that he said, I am?
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Harry, you want to expand on that?
I'm sorry?
You want to expand on that?
Yes, when Moses said, "Who shall I say sent me to rescue the people out of Egypt? From the burning bush comes, tell them I am sent you."
Yep.
That's God's name.
Yep. And Margot picked that up. Anybody else pick that part up? Okay. So those are the kind of subtleties that you'll find that as you read deeper into the text on a regular basis, those are going to just pop right out at you. And Judges is so filled with this, with Yahweh moving. Yes, it talks about the Jews and their problems. So focus on what they did, but then turn that light off and turn the other light on and start to look at how God is acting now and then. So, and all that I command her, let her observe. So I'm going to wrap it with this last verse. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, "Please let us detain you, and we will prepare a young goat for you, a meal for you." Okay? So what's going to happen next is we'll read next week is basically we start to get into who this angel is and who's being revealed who he is to be. So I'll wrap it up with that. I'll close in prayer. We've got 5 minutes. Any questions or comments at this point? Nope. But who? Yeah.
Why do you think God picked that couple?
That's a great question. I don't know. We don't see that we don't even know the wife's name. One of the first things you ask is when you see a name in the text, always try to find the root word of the name. And it's really cool. Ruth is pleasant, or I'm sorry, Naomi is pleasant. There's different names that mean certain. Mara means what? Bitter. Thank you. And so, when you get to be 77, though, it gets really bad. So I forget all these. I used to memorize these names. It drives me nuts. I can't remember anything anymore. But the point is that names mean something in the Bible. There are always meanings in those names. So you let those burn deep. Yeah. Okay? Thank you.
I found it interesting that the husband didn't really believe the wife. She said, "Come see the man who
Yeah.
appeared to me."
Yeah.
And he went and said, "Are you the guy that met my wife?"
Kind of like Joseph.
Huh?
Joseph did the same thing.
You know what's also interesting? Why didn't he go to the man in the first place? I don't think the man could handle it. Read into that one if you feel. I think women are stronger in that sense. Yes.
I thought it was interesting that she met this incredible being and she left him, and then he waited. And it seems like you would just be so stunned.
You'd be
stay
frozen.
there and wait what
Yep.
happens next.
Yeah.
You know?
But isn't the first impulse to say, "Hey, look what I just saw. Come look at it." She wants to share it with her husband. Yeah, and he would do the same. So, anything else? Well, thank you, guys. Father, thank you for this time. Again, we just praise you. We ask that you be with our pastors as they're going about the business of taking care of this flock. Guide us through this week. Help us understand your book better. For this we ask in your name. Amen.